The trap. Captain Elena Vasquez stood quietly on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars through the main viewport. The bridge looked simple and old, with basic controls and worn seats. Her crew of 5 worked at their stations, checking cargo manifests and monitoring the ship's slow progress through space. The vessel appeared to be nothing more than an ordinary cargo hauler making its way to the outer colonies. The ship's name, painted in faded letters on the hull, read Merchant's Dream. According to all official records, it was carrying medical supplies and food to the struggling colony on Kepler 442 bits. The cargo manifest listed antibiotics, water purification tablets, and emergency rations. Any casual observer would see exactly what they expected to see: another desperate attempt to keep humanity's distant outposts alive. But appearances could be very deceiving. "Captain," called out Communications Officer Marcus Chen from his station, "I'm detecting multiple contacts on long-range sensors. Large ships, coming in fast from 3 different directions." His voice carried just the right amount of concern for a civilian crew member who had stumbled into danger. Elena nodded slowly, keeping her expression calm but worried. "How many ships, Marcus?" 15 contacts, ma'am. They're big ones, too. Each ship is at least 4 times our size." Marcus looked up from his screen with carefully practiced fear in his eyes. Their energy signatures matched Krillian Empire vessels. The other crew members on the bridge exchanged nervous glances. Navigation Officer Sarah Kim gripped her console tighter. "Captain, the Krillians are known for capturing human ships and selling the crews into slavery. We should run." "Run where?" asked Chief Engineer Tom Bradley from his position at the back of the bridge. "They're surrounding us. Our engines can't outrun those warships." Medical Officer Dr. Amanda Foster looked up from her station with genuine worry on her face. "Captain, we have 3,000 doses of the new cancer treatment in our cargo hold. The colony on Kepler 442 bits is counting on those supplies. People will die without them." Elena walked to the center of the bridge and sat down in her command chair. She took a deep breath and looked at each of her crew members. "Then we'll have to hope they're feeling generous today. Marcus, when they hail us, put them on screen." The Krillian fleet moved into attack formation around the lone human vessel. Their ships were massive and intimidating, covered in weapon ports and armored plating. Each vessel displayed the twisted metal symbol of the Krillian Empire, a sign that had brought fear to dozens of alien races across the galaxy. On the command deck of the lead Krillian ship, Admiral Thex studied the human vessel with his 4 red eyes. His scaled skin was dark purple, and his clawed hands gripped the armrests of his command chair. The Krillians were reptilian creatures, evolved from predators on a harsh desert world. They believed that only the strong deserved to survive, and they had built their empire by conquering weaker races. "A single human cargo ship," Admiral Thex said with amusement in his voice. "They are so pathetic, wandering around space in their primitive vessels, completely helpless." He turned to his communications officer. "Open a channel to the human ship. Let me speak with their captain." The main screen on the bridge of the Merchant's Dream flickered to life, showing Admiral Thex's intimidating face. His voice was deep and threatening as the universal translator converted his words into English. "Human vessel, I am Admiral Thex of the Krillian Third Fleet. Your ship and cargo now belong to the Krillian Empire. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your vessel and the death of your crew." Elena stood up slowly, making sure to look appropriately frightened. "Admiral Thex, we are a peaceful cargo vessel carrying medical supplies to a human colony. We have no weapons and pose no threat to your fleet." Admiral Thex laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "Your species amuses me, human. You speak of peace while your military forces attack our mining operations in the Vega system. But do not worry. You will have the honor of serving the Krillian Empire as slaves. Your medical knowledge will be useful to us." "Admiral," Elena said carefully, "perhaps we can reach some kind of agreement. We have valuable medical supplies that could benefit your people as well. The only agreement, Admiral Thex replied, is your complete surrender. You have 60 seconds to disable your engines and prepare for boarding. If you refuse, we will cripple your ship and take what we want from the wreckage. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge of the Merchant's Dream in tense silence. Alina looked around at her crew, who were all watching her carefully. Well, she said quietly, I think 60 seconds is long enough. Marcus Chen pressed several buttons on his communications console. All stations, this is communications. The masquerade is over. Repeat, the masquerade is over. Suddenly, the entire bridge began to change. The worn and outdated control panels slid away, revealing advanced holographic displays and quantum processors. The simple chairs transformed into high-tech command seats with neural interfaces. The walls themselves shifted, exposing hidden weapon controls and tactical systems. Alina Vasquez straightened her shoulders as her civilian clothes dissolved away, replaced by the dark blue uniform of the Earth Space Force. 4 silver stars gleamed on her collar, marking her rank as a full admiral. Her crew underwent similar transformations, revealing themselves as elite military officers. Marcus, Admiral Vasquez said in a voice now filled with authority, drop the civilian transponder signal and activate our real identification. Yes, ma'am, Marcus replied, his fingers dancing over controls that were far more sophisticated than anything found on a cargo ship. Transmitting true vessel identification now. Outside the ship, the faded letters spelling Merchant's Dream flickered and disappeared. In their place, bold new markings appeared. ESS Retribution. Experimental Warfare Division. The ship's hull itself began to shift and change as stealth plating retracted to reveal the sleek, angular lines of humanity's most advanced warship. Admiral Thex watched in stunned silence as his sensors began registering readings that made no sense. The small cargo ship was suddenly showing power levels that exceeded his own flagship. Weapon signatures appeared all across the vessel's hull, systems so advanced that his computers couldn't identify their purpose. What is happening? Admiral Thex demanded of his science officer. How is that primitive vessel generating so much energy? I don't know, Admiral. The Krillian replied, his voice shaking with confusion. Our sensors show that ship is now producing more power than our entire fleet combined. And those weapon signatures, they're unlike anything in our database. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Vasquez settled into her command chair with a satisfied smile. Sarah, bring all primary systems online. Tom, charge the quantum cannons and prepare the phase shields. Quantum cannons charged and ready, Admiral. Tom Bradley reported from his engineering station, which now displayed holographic schematics of weapon systems that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. Phase shields at full power, Sarah Kim announced from her tactical position. All stealth systems are disengaged. They can see exactly what we are now. Dr. Amanda Foster looked up from her science station, which had transformed from medical equipment into advanced xenobiology and psychological warfare systems. Admiral, I'm reading elevated stress hormones in the Krillian crews. Their heart rates are increasing rapidly. They're beginning to understand that they've made a serious mistake. Admiral Vasquez opened a communications channel to the Krillian fleet. Her image appeared on Admiral Thex's main screen, but now she looked nothing like the frightened cargo captain he had spoken to minutes earlier. Admiral Thex, she said in a calm, professional voice, I am Admiral Alina Vasquez of the Earth Space Force ship Retribution. You are now surrounded by the most advanced warship in human space, equipped with experimental weapon systems that your technology cannot even detect, much less defend against. Admiral Thex stared at the human admiral in disbelief. Impossible. Our intelligence reports show that humans have only primitive weapons and slow ships. Your species is barely space-capable. Your intelligence is deliberately incorrect. Admiral Vasquez replied, We've been allowing you to believe that for quite some time. It makes it much easier to study our enemies when they think we're not a threat. The truth was even more complex than Admiral Thex could imagine. The Retribution was one of 12 identical vessels, each disguised as different types of civilian ships. They had been deployed throughout the galaxy with a specific mission: to locate aggressive alien species and evaluate the threat they posed to humanity. For 6 months, the Retribution had been operating under its false identity, gathering intelligence on the Krillian Empire. They had documented the aliens' military capabilities, their expansion patterns, and their treatment of conquered species. What they found was deeply disturbing. The Krillians had destroyed or enslaved 17 different alien civilizations. They showed no mercy to peaceful species and viewed genocide as an acceptable tool of conquest. Their military doctrine was based on overwhelming force and intimidation, crushing any resistance before it could organize. But they had never encountered humans before. "Admiral," Marcus Chen reported, "I'm intercepting Krillian communications. They're trying to call for reinforcements." "Jam all their long-range transmissions," Admiral Vasquez ordered. "I don't want word of this encounter reaching their high command until we're ready." Admiral Thex watched helplessly as his communication systems went dead. Every attempt to contact his superiors was blocked by sophisticated electronic warfare systems that his technology couldn't overcome. "Human," Admiral Thex said, trying to maintain his authority despite the growing fear in his voice. "You may have superior technology, but you are still outnumbered 15 to 1. Surrender now, and we will allow your crew to live as slaves." Admiral Vasquez laughed softly. "Admiral Thex, I think you're still misunderstanding the situation. Marcus, show them what they're really facing." Marcus pressed a series of controls, and suddenly space around the Krillian fleet came alive with activity. What had appeared to be empty space was suddenly filled with dozens of human ships, all decloaking simultaneously. Cruisers, destroyers, and support vessels appeared from nowhere, their advanced stealth systems finally revealing the trap that had been carefully set. "You see, Admiral," Vasquez explained as Thex stared in horror at the human fleet surrounding him. "We've been tracking your expansion into this sector for months. We knew you would eventually encounter human settlements, and we wanted to be ready when you did." The Krillian admiral looked at his tactical displays in growing panic. His 15 ships were now facing a human fleet of over 40 vessels, each one showing advanced technology that his scientists couldn't even understand. "This is impossible," Admiral Thex whispered. "Our scouts reported that humans had only a few primitive colonies in this region." "Your scouts saw exactly what we wanted them to see," Admiral Vasquez replied. "Welcome to humanity's first lesson, Admiral Thex. We are not the primitive species you believed us to be." The Reckoning. Admiral Thex gripped his command chair as the reality of his situation became clear. His fleet of 15 powerful warships, which had conquered dozens of alien races, was now trapped by humans he had assumed were barely capable of spaceflight. The tactical display showed enemy vessels surrounding them from every direction, their weapons charged and ready. "Weapons officer," Admiral Thex barked, "target the human flagship and fire everything we have. If we can destroy their command ship, the others might retreat." The Krillian weapons officer's claws moved rapidly over his controls. "All batteries firing, Admiral." Plasma torpedoes and particle beams locked on target. The space around the Retribution lit up with brilliant flashes as the Krillian fleet opened fire. Dozens of energy beams and explosive projectiles streaked toward the human ship. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But something incredible happened when the alien weapons struck their target. Instead of exploding against the ship's hull, the energy beams seemed to bend and twist around the Retribution like water flowing around a stone. The plasma torpedoes simply vanished into shimmering fields of energy that surrounded the human vessel. Not a single shot reached its target. "Impossible," Admiral Thex shouted. "What kind of shields are those?" On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Vasquez watched calmly as the alien attack failed completely. Tom, status report on the quantum shields. Performing perfectly. Admiral. Chief Engineer Tom Bradley replied with satisfaction. The quantum field generators are bending spacetime around our hull. Their weapons literally cannot reach us because they're being redirected into parallel dimensions. Dr. Amanda Foster looked up from her science station with excitement in her voice. Admiral, the psychological impact on the Krillian crews is exactly what we predicted. Their stress levels are off the charts. Several of their ships are reporting system failures due to crew panic. Excellent, Admiral Vasquez said. Sarah, prepare the demonstration. Let's show them what human weapons can do. Navigation Officer Sarah Kim, who was actually the ship's weapons specialist, pressed a single button on her console, firing particle disruptor cannon at minimum power setting. A thin beam of blue light shot out from the retribution toward one of the smaller Krillian ships. The beam was barely visible, looking more like a scanning laser than a weapon. When it touched the alien vessel's hull, something amazing happened. The entire ship simply stopped working. Every light went out, every engine shut down, and every weapon system went offline. The massive warship became nothing more than a drifting piece of metal in space. What did you do to my ship? Admiral Thex demanded, his voice filled with fear and rage. We temporarily disrupted the quantum bonds holding your ship's electronics together. Admiral Vasquez explained calmly. The effect is completely reversible, but while it's active, your vessel is about as useful as a paperweight. The other Krillian ships watched in horror as one of their most powerful warships was neutralized by a single shot from the human vessel. Admiral Thex realized that if the humans could disable his ships so easily, they could probably destroy them just as easily. All ships, Admiral Thex ordered. Attack pattern Omega. Surround the human flagship and fire everything at once. Even their advanced shields must have limits. The Krillian fleet began to move into position for a coordinated attack. But Admiral Vasquez had anticipated this tactic. Marcus, she said, activate the neural disruption field. Marcus Chen pressed a series of controls, and suddenly the space around the human fleet filled with an invisible energy field. The field was designed to interfere with the electrical signals in alien nervous systems, causing confusion and disorientation. On the Krillian ships, crew members began stumbling and falling as their balance was affected. Navigation officers found they couldn't read their instruments clearly. Weapons specialists discovered their targeting systems seemed to be malfunctioning, though the equipment was actually working perfectly. Admiral, one of Thex's officers called out, I can't maintain course. The navigation controls aren't responding properly. Weapons systems are acting erratically, reported another officer. I can't get a stable lock on any of the human vessels. Admiral Thex felt dizzy and confused, but his military training helped him realize what was happening. They're using some kind of neural weapon against us. All ships fall back to minimum safe distance. But as the Krillian ships tried to retreat, they discovered that the human fleet was moving to block their escape routes. The humans weren't just technologically superior. They were also using tactics that the Krillians had never encountered. Admiral, Dr. Foster reported, I'm detecting increasing panic among their crews. Several ships are requesting permission to surrender. Admiral Vasquez considered this information carefully. The mission parameters were clear. Demonstrate human superiority without causing unnecessary casualties. The goal was to send a message, not to commit genocide. Open a channel to the entire Krillian fleet, she ordered. Her image appeared on the main screens of all 15 alien ships. When she spoke, her voice was heard by every member of the Krillian fleet. Attention Krillian vessels. I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the Earth Space Force. Your fleet is completely surrounded and outmatched. However, humanity is not interested in unnecessary bloodshed. I am prepared to offer you terms for surrender. Admiral Thex, still struggling with the effects of the neural disruption field, managed to respond. What? What terms? First, Admiral Vasquez said, You will immediately cease all military operations in human space. Second, you will withdraw your forces to your own territory and make no further attempts to expand in this direction. Third, you will release all slaves and prisoners from the 17 species you have conquered. Impossible, Admiral Thex replied, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. The Krillian Empire does not negotiate with inferior species. Then let me make the alternative clear, Admiral Vasquez said. Her tone remained calm, but there was steel beneath her words. Sarah, target the disabled ship with a quantum torpedo. Minimum yield. A single projectile shot out from the Retribution toward the powerless Krillian vessel. When it struck, the entire ship simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris, no trace that it had ever been there. The quantum torpedo had unraveled the atomic bonds holding the ship together, converting matter directly into energy. The remaining 14 Krillian ships watched in stunned silence as one of their most powerful warships was completely erased from existence. That was our weakest weapon, Admiral Vasquez explained, fired at its lowest setting. Our main battle systems are considerably more powerful. Admiral Thex, you have 60 seconds to make your decision. Admiral Thex looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. These were hardened veterans who had conquered star systems and destroyed entire civilizations. Now they were cowering in fear of a single human ship. But it wasn't really a single ship, Thex realized. The humans had hidden an entire fleet in this region of space, all equipped with technology that made Krillian weapons look like stone tools. The humans had been planning this encounter for months, maybe years. They had studied Krillian tactics and psychology, then designed the perfect trap. Admiral, his communications officer called out, I'm receiving surrender requests from 12 of our remaining ships. The crews are requesting permission to abandon their vessels. Admiral Thex closed his 4 eyes and made the hardest decision of his military career. Human Admiral, he said quietly, the Krillian Third Fleet accepts your terms. Excellent, Admiral Vasquez replied. Marcus, end the neural disruption field. Tom, restore power to their disabled vessel. Across the Krillian fleet, the confusion and disorientation disappeared as the neural field was deactivated. The disabled ship's lights came back on as its systems were restored to normal function. You will return to Krillian space immediately, Admiral Vasquez continued. Our ships will escort you to the border to ensure compliance. Any attempt to deviate from the prescribed course will be met with immediate destruction. Admiral Thex nodded slowly. Understood. But I must ask, how long have humans possessed such advanced technology? Admiral Vasquez smiled slightly. Long enough, Admiral. Your intelligence networks have been feeding you false information for quite some time. We wanted to see what kind of species we were dealing with before we revealed our true capabilities. The truth was even more complex. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. When humans first reached the stars, they had quickly realized that they were not alone in the galaxy. More importantly, they had discovered that most alien species fell into 2 categories: peaceful civilizations that were easily conquered, and aggressive empires that survived by destroying others. Humanity had made a deliberate choice to appear weak and primitive, while secretly developing the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. The Retribution and her sister ships were the result of 50 years of hidden research and development. Your empire has a choice to make, Admiral Vasquez told Admiral Thex. You can continue your expansion in other directions, away from human space, or you can change your ways and try to coexist peacefully with your neighbors. But if you ever threaten humanity or our allies again, you will discover that today's demonstration was just a small sample of our capabilities. Admiral Thex ordered his fleet to begin the journey back to Krillian space. As his ships moved away from the human fleet, he couldn't help but wonder how many other primitive species might be hiding similar secrets. The human ships followed at a respectful distance, their advanced sensors monitoring every move the Krillians made. Admiral Vasquez watched from her command chair as the alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's true power back to their empire. "Well done, everyone," she told her crew. "Mission accomplished. The Krillians won't be bothering human colonies anytime soon." Dr. Foster looked up from her station with a thoughtful expression. "Admiral, what do you think they'll do when they report back to their high command?" "They'll probably assume we're some kind of advanced civilization that's been hiding our true nature," Admiral Vasquez replied. "Which is exactly what we want them to think. The longer our enemies underestimate humanity, the more time we have to prepare for the real conflicts that are coming." As the Retribution resumed its disguise as a simple cargo vessel, Admiral Vasquez reflected on the success of their mission. The trap had worked perfectly. The Krillians had learned that humans were not the easy prey they had expected, and word of this encounter would spread throughout the galaxy. But this was just the beginning. Humanity had identified dozens of aggressive alien empires, and each one would need to be dealt with in time. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of species that viewed conquest and slavery as natural rights. They were about to learn that humanity had very different ideas about natural rights. The Retribution continued on its course, once again appearing to be nothing more than a harmless cargo ship carrying medical supplies to distant colonies. But now it carried something else as well. The knowledge that humanity's greatest strength was not its technology or its weapons. It was the ability to think, plan, and prepare for threats that others couldn't even imagine. In the depths of space, other ships like the Retribution continued their missions, gathering intelligence and waiting for the next alien empire to make the mistake of underestimating humanity. The galaxy was about to become a much safer place for peaceful species, and a much more dangerous place for those who preferred conquest to cooperation.